Welcome to Follow the Money, Unmasking Financial Crime. This podcast is a production of the Financial Investigations Division. I'm your host, Robian Williams. In this episode, we're discussing today fraud in Jamaica's banking system and how to really protect yourself. I'm joined by Mr. Dane Nicholson. He is co-chair of the Anti-Fraud Committee at the Jamaica Bankers Association. He has years of frontline experience fighting fraud in the banking sector, and he's here to really share his wealth of knowledge with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Nicholson. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Wonderful. So today we're discussing how insider threat, ATM, skimming, customer fraud, phishing, and scams and more, and you're here to tell us about all of that. Yes? So let's look at the bigger picture. How is the banking sector really protecting us, the consumers, the customers? How is the banking system set up to protect us?
So banks are customer-centric. So we have the customers at the forefront. So whatever policies, procedures that we implement, the customers are at the center of it. So what most financial institutions, not just in Jamaica but around the world, will do is go up and beyond the call of duty to ensure that their customers are protected, that we have discretion sometimes, even when the customers are not necessarily at fault. We will ensure that we find a customer-centric way by balancing customer experience and security, by acceding to the customer request at most of the time. You know, we have a saying in Jamaica, in customer service, where the customers are always
right.
We try as best as possible, not saying that is always the case, because sometimes you do have customers who go far left and abuse certain policies and procedures, and the banks really have to stand their ground.
Indeed. So what kind of fraud you are seeing at this point in time the most often? What are you seeing in Jamaica today?
So in Jamaica today, as we speak, card not present, or what most persons refer to as e-commerce fraud, is very prevalent. Because online fraud. The sector has pretty much moved away from magstripe, that little black thing on the back of the card, to now EMV cards. So we, as the industry, knew that once we had migrated to EMV, or chip cards as a lot of persons refer to it, then that would be the most prevalent fraud. So card not present fraud is the most prevalent one. That has a lot of nuances to it. There are a lot of variations. You have the bin attack, where fraudsters try to make up the full 16-digit expiry date and CVV of a customer card, and that is very aggressive at this point in time. I think that is one of the most aggressive frauds that financial institutions face, not just in Jamaica but across Latin America and the Caribbean region.
Indeed. I'm an online shopper, right? And oftentimes when I go online to purchase things, I feel a certain type of way when I'm entering all my information. What are some ways we, the shoppers, can protect ourselves?
So there are a number of things that the shoppers can do. So let me start from what banks are doing. So banks are rolling out what we refer to now as tokenized cards. So persons, those of us who have online banking, either have a hard token or a physical token, and the information changes all the time. Banks are now rolling out credit cards with similar features. So each time you shop online, you'll get a different card number that you can utilize. Banks are also rolling out virtual cards, meaning you don't necessarily have to have a physical card anymore. You get an email or you get a push notification on your online banking platform with certain details associated with the card. Once you activate that card and enroll it, like for example in Amazon, in Google Pay, NCB Pay, or any of those platforms, then you'll get a tokenized card that utilizes different aspects of it. What I'll advise customers to do is to ensure also that the site that they're shopping on is safe and is secure. So they should look for the S in the HTTPS when they're, or look for the padlock in the top right hand corner to ensure that the site is secure. A lot of persons also don't read the disclaimer section on those websites when they're shopping online, and they save their credit card, the expiry date.
Yes, they save everything.
Save everything in the site, and then the site will automatically charge also the card each time either a transaction, or some of them have subscription that they don't read the finer details, and each month it charges the card. Or for example, a famous one that a lot of persons fall victim to, and this came up since COVID-19 when persons were at home, the gaming sites. So a lot of parents would give their cards to the child, or they themselves sign up for a game. They don't read the details, they just automatically save it on the website, and each time the child reaches a particular stage at the game, then they are able to charge it to the card, or the card charge a subscription every month. So basic stuff like those are pointers that customers are supposed to look for when shopping online. For card present now, or in-person transaction, there are different things that customers can look out for to keep themselves safe as well.
Indeed. You know, what I find interesting is that the banks these days, they have the aspect of sending you emails. You have to sign up for them to send you emails. So each time your card is being used, whether inside or outside of the country, you get a notification.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's absolutely amazing.
Certainly. So that's one of the features that we as banks, we came up with to ensure that customers can be aware, because one of the best way to stay safe is to be alert as to what is happening to your account, follow transaction alert, or log into your online banking and check your account quite frequent.
And you know, many people don't check their online banking, their statements and all that. They don't check that.
Definitely.
And when you come to the end of the month, you know, and you check and you see all the transactions that's been happening, that's when you now become aware.
Definitely. And one of the things that we as banks do, as I said, we balance customer experience and security. So quite a few banks, and I'll use the NCB example, obviously because I'm more intimate with the NCB platform. So NCB has developed a platform which we refer to as Manage My Card. And what that allows customers to do is to block and unblock their credit card at their convenience. We have even gone a little bit further and embedded it in the mobile app now, where you can, once you log on, you see your credit card, or your debit card, once you're not utilizing it, you block it. When you're ready to utilize it, you unblock it. And that will protect you from a number of things, including not just hardcore white-collar criminal, but friendly fraud, because a lot of persons inadvertently, sometimes persons within your household get access to your debit or credit card. And
so that's what we describe as friendly fraud.
Yes, so friendly fraud, or some person refer to it, the industry refer to it as first-party misuse fraud, and that is where persons within your household or closely associated with you get access to your debit and credit card and utilize it with sometimes your knowledge and without your knowledge at times, because sometimes you have cardholders who are disingenuous and they know about the transaction and they make a claim against the bank for it.
Indeed. Speak to us about employees going rogue, right? Let's go inside the banks. We've seen headlines about employees defrauding customers, defrauding the bank, stealing hundreds of millions. That really shakes public trust, you'd imagine, yes? How do banks handle when the fraud comes from inside?
So the first thing that the bank does is the bank will underwrite the cost associated. So the customers stand no loss in relation to that. The banks will reimburse the customers 100%, because that is a non-contributory fraud. So we have contributory and non-contributory type of fraud. So insider threat type activities are fraud that the customers plays no part in. So the banks must reimburse the customers. That's the first thing. The banks have put many controls in place to protect customers and also the employees from themselves as well. So we have in banking what we refer to as know your employee. So there are certain, similar to how you have know your customers, where you have to get certain documentation, financial history, you know, their lifestyles and stuff like that. We have also implemented separation of duty. No one staff member should be able to execute certain transactions on their own. We have audit trails. We have a myriad of things. They're sweet. So there's no one silver bullet that can eliminate that type of activities. And then you have the constant training and monitoring for suspicious activities as well.
Indeed. You mentioned the customer will not lose. But how soon after being defrauded does the customer be reimbursed?
So that can vary depending on the complexity of the investigation. But what I can assure you is that the financial institution will at the soonest possible time ensure that the customer is restored to where they were before the fraud would have occurred. And that can vary from a week to a month, or sometimes even a little bit longer, unfortunately. But there's no those type of activities, because there are a lot of moving parts and a full-fledged audit will have to be done. It depends, but most times the banks will try to ensure that within 3 to 5 business days, or sometimes depending on what's happening, a month or two, will ensure that the customer is reimbursed for insider threat. But the BOJ has regulation as it relates to communication and when the dispute must be resolved. So the bank, even if the bank can't resolve the dispute, it must be able and should be in constant dialogue and communication by updating the customer to say that the matter is under investigation, and we'll send a notification, whether a letter, a WhatsApp, or a call, or invite the customer into a meeting to have certain discussion. But the customer must be kept abreast.
I really appreciate that information, because we do get frustrated when we're not in the know. We would want to be in the know to track what's happening, and just to be abreast of all that's taking place, I would imagine. But let's flip the coin. Sometimes customers themselves, they are the one who commit the fraud. In that instance, how do banks deal with that type of abuse, and what kind of consequences do customers face?
So customers can face up to discontinuation of the banking relationship if you make a disingenuous claim against the bank. The bank also has policies and procedure where they can charge a nuisance type fee, the cost of the investigation. But most banks, because we are customer centric, and sometimes we would want to believe that the customer make an error in making a claim that they know that it not go so for free. So what we try to do is to ensure that those aggressive options are the last resort that we'll exhort to. So if, for example, a few years ago we had some deposit fraud where customers would deposit money in their bank account and then go to the ABM, withdraw them, deposit it back, withdraw it, and then come to the bank and make a claim. And we had it was a ring of guys who came up, and several customers colluded with it. For obvious reasons, those type of cases we have to take strong actions against, because those are behaviors that you don't want to encourage any at all. So those customers, the matter will be reported to an appropriate entity like the FID for them to investigate and take appropriate action where necessary, or the banks will investigate, tell the customer that it's not a genuine case of fraud, and then take other action, which could or might not be limited to reporting it to the entity or discontinuing the banking relationship with the customer.
Indeed. Another big concern, right, is the external threat. Hackers, people skimming, phishing, and ATMs, right? Going to the ATMs, putting in your code, and they having access to it. How do banks really protect customers from these type of threats?
So let's break it down and take each vector by. So ATM. Banks have invested millions of dollars to upgrade and ensure that we have the latest software, anti-skimming, anti-jamming device on the ATMs to protect our customers. Customers also, we have customer education is key. So for example, when customers go to the ATM, and if you are right-handed, you use your left hand to cover the keypad to ensure that if there's a pinhole camera somewhere, that your pin is protected. Because even if they get the card information without the pin, they can't go and withdraw any money. But they could
use it online
to do card not present transaction. But what we as financial institution have also done, so even if you, the customer, not protecting your PIN at the ABM, most of us is declining what we refer to as fallback or magstripe transaction. So even if your card gets compromised at the ATM, we decline those type of transaction. And there are suites of technology that we have embedded on the ATM to protect skimming. But this is a
skimming. Define skimming for me, for those who are listening, who are watching and not aware of these terms.
So skimming is when criminals use technology to lift the information from the little black strip at the card, and then cloning is when they'll go now and make a duplicate card using the information that they would have lifted from the mag stripe. You have other types of you have, for example, shimming, and that is trying to get the information from the chip of the card. Let me pause and say we have had no case where the chips have been compromised. We have had no case where any duplicate chips. The chips are safe, they are secure. It is so chip and contactless is the fastest and most secure way to go about doing your transactions.
And when you say contactless is when you tap the card.
Tap the card.
I wanted to go there, because I thought about how safe that is, especially if you're supposed to lose your card and somebody can just tap it and go.
So again, that is the fastest and most secure way to go about your transaction. I know persons have concern about whether or not they lose the card, yes or no. So what financial institution do? So we have that amount that you can tap the card without entering your PIN. That is a form of balancing customer experience and security. But what institutions do in the back end is to put rules in place to ensure that you protect the customer. So for example, if you see a customer card tapping at a gas station 3, 4, 5 times within a short window, financial institutions have rules that they'll put in place to decline the transaction. So for example, some institution might say you decline 2 or 3 transactions at the same merchant within 30 minutes, or you can not decline the transaction, you can ask for the PIN to be inputted.
Yes.
So institution has the latitude to do things like those. But if the unfortunate situation arises where a customer loses his or her card, the rule is across the board is that if the card is lost or stolen, the customer would be responsible for the transaction that occurred before you report it to the bank. But as I said, financial institution will use their discretion and they'll examine each case as a case-by-case basis and then make a discretionary call in relation to reimbursement. Let's go back to the skimming and point of sale and stuff like that. At the point of sale as well, skimming takes place. What you have is fraudsters steal the genuine point of sale and they retrofit them and turn them into skimmers. So you'll go somewhere and you'll get one point of sale. You'll swipe and they tell you to put your PIN, and then they tell you, oh, this machine is not working. They have to use another one. That is quite
that you're saying frequent. Is a red flag right there.
That is a red flag. So if you're the double swiping on your card, even though there are genuine cases sometimes when that do happen, but if that happens, raise it with the establishment to ensure that the both machine belongs to the place of business that is done. Another one that I want the listeners to be familiar with is we have seen a significant increase in card not present fraud, because persons will go to the point of sale and they'll just give the debit or credit card to the cashier, the pump attendant, to even if they are tapping, it's just it comes naturally
to just hand the card to the card. Right.
But I'm
guilty of that too.
I want persons to desist from doing so, because what we have been having is that one, the cashier pump attendants, they are writing down the full 16-digit debit card and expiry date. They are setting up their phones in strategic location and having a conversation where they're turning the card back and front, recording it. I have seen also where they have, as the banks improve, they have also improved. And some of them have glasses like these, and then you'll see it have some little things. There are some cameras that record, and they're there having a conversation with you and flipping your card back and front, and the camera is recording all your information.
Unknowingly to you.
Unknowingly to the customer. When you leave, you say, transact. So the thing that I'd recommend at the point of sale is to ensure that the customer always maintain possession of the card. So if you are tapping, you tap. If you are going to insert, you insert. And one of the things that I'll encourage, I know there's a floor limit for tapping, but irrespective of the amount, you can stop. So if you're tapping for 5,000 or you're tapping for 500,000, you can tap and then enter your PIN. That is the best way to go about it.
And we as customers, we should really be knowledgeable about these things because, say, for instance, we go to a gas station, right? And we give the person the card. We don't know that that is happening. We don't know. We wouldn't know. But as you say, naturally it comes off. You just give the person the card.
So as an industry, we have to ensure that we disseminate, and customer education, merchant education is a very important aspect of it, because a lot of time customer inadvertently exposes themselves to fraud because they don't know, or sometimes they don't follow the best practices, because we have, as an industry, we have done a lot of customer education over the years in terms of advising customers on skimming, phishing, telling persons not to click on links and stuff like that. But some persons still do, even though banks send out information about phishing and vishing and those type of activities. I know of cases where fraudsters still send person SMS, email, and persons still click on the link and enter all the information.
And there is where I want to go, the smishing, the phishing, those fake emails and texts pretending to be the bank. What advice do you really give people so they won't be tricked?
So the first thing is, some banks has a strict no-click, no-link policy.
Makes sense.
So that is the easiest and simplest way to protect customers from phishing, because the fraudsters, they are very sophisticated.
Yes, they are.
And they spoof or whatever to make the website look just like, so when they click on the link, it looks just like whichever institution they are targeting. So what I'll tell customers to do is, if you never solicit a link from wherever institution it's coming from, you don't click on it. So solicited versus unsolicited links. So if you know that your bank that you are associated with, well, if you want to, for example, reset your password and you go there and you click reset password, some entity might send you a link to click on. Some entity has a strict no click, no link policy.
You heard it there.
You have to know the institutions that you are associated with to protect yourself against it. And then the best practices, so when you click on the link, look in the URL, look for the S in the HTTPS, look for the padlock to ensure that the site is safe and secure.
Indeed. I am often getting these messages, these SMS as you put it, to say, send Y. Like they would send the message to say, not to click on a link, but for me to send something to the same number. And I often wonder why.
So what they want to do is to engage you in a conversation, and that is how they'll sometimes
lure you in
or deceive you into providing certain sensitive information. So they are not just sending WhatsApp messages, they are not just sending SMS messages. They have migrated to know what they refer to as crushing, where they send WhatsApp and QR codes and stuff like that for persons to, you'll go into a place of business. One of the great risks that we face now is that the QR codes, you'll go to the restaurant, the QR code is there to get the menu. You scan it and get a menu. How do you know that the QR code was placed there by the restaurant, by a reputable entity? Because those QR code, once you click on them, it's an embedded link in the QR code, and you can download malware on whichever device that you use. So those are things for us to be mindful of. But what customers have to do is to ensure that they know the entities that they're associated with and know the best practice. Institutions are not going to ask you to provide certain sensitive information
over the phone.
For example, I know of a case recently where they call a customer and ask the customer for the full 16-digit expiry date, CVV, the username, password, and token code over the phone, and they provide everything over the phone. Wow. That is a phishing attack, where you call somebody pretending to be from a financial institution and deceive them into providing certain sensitive information.
I must go back to, because I'm guilty of this also, saving all my passwords one place. How dangerous is that?
So there are password managers out there that you can pay for and get that are safe and secure. My best practices that I tell persons to do, I don't utilize them, not because they are not safe and secure, But what I use as passwords, so the first rule of thumb is do not write down your password anywhere. What I recommend to persons to use is use password phrases that you can easily remember. So for example, rather than a lot of persons use their date of birth and other things, don't use those. Use, for example, my pet name is Cookie, #1, 2, 3. That's something that you can remember easy. Don't use things that fraudsters can guess easily. And persons put all their information on social media as well.
Birthday,
so don't,
special occasion, everything is plastered all over social media.
So don't use those things that cyber criminal can either dumpster dive or surf the internet and do a brute force attack to get certain information on you. So use password phrases and use I know best practice now is saying is moving. I think it's at 16 character, 13 or 16 character now, and they're going to 21 character pretty soon. So when you use password phrases, then it makes it a lot easier for you. You don't have to write down the information. Even if you have 10 different passwords, if you use phrases that are associated with certain things and identify with whatever you're doing, then it makes it a lot easier for you to do. So my favorite color is probably blue and at 1, 2, 3. That could be a strong password. And you use a capital somewhere, use it rather than using
all caps or
you use a number sign.
Okay.
So or dollar sign.
You have to get smart with it because they are becoming sophisticated, as you put it. So you have to be sophisticated as well.
Definitely.
Indeed, we have to match them energy.
You have to match it. Yes.
I want to take it to the law aspect now, beyond what the bank does internally. What laws are in place to help protect banks and customers from these threats?
So there are a number of laws. So the Cybercrime Act protect the larceny Act, the banking servicing Act, the FID legislation.
Yes.
There are a number of suites of stuff that is available both to the customer and the banks to ensure that they are safe and secure. So for example, the banking servicing act has dual responsibility. So the banks has certain roles and responsibility that it must provide in terms of ensuring that it protects customer data. The Data Protection Act also provides certain protection for the customer. So it is pretty much balanced right across the board in relation to what exists for the customers and what exists for the banks as protection.
For the banks, mandatory reporting. Banks must submit suspicious transactions and there's a threshold transaction also. How does this reporting help to stop fraud before it spreads, before it goes further?
So that helps both the bank and the law enforcement.
Okay, the law enforcement.
And law enforcement agency to ensure that you protect certain aspect of it from going. So when a financial institution issue a suspicious transaction reports to the FID, that will give them as much information as they need to take it further and investigate it to follow the money.
Follow the money.
As this podcast is alluded. The threshold transaction report as well also provides certain insight. As financial institution, we have compliance department as well that will assist in doing certain activities that will ensure that we don't, for example, the law prohibits us from participating in money laundering. So if you see certain activities taking place where a customer have certain behavioral patterns which mirrors money laundering, then we must, one, make a report to the FID, and two, internal, we must take certain action to ensure, because our license prohibits us from turning a blind eye. So we can't see the red flags and say, oh, we're not doing anything about it. It's a valid customer of ours. We have to ensure that we adhere to the rules and regulations to ensure that we protect ourselves.
Indeed. You mentioned department. We're going about oversight now and auditing. Auditors do play a big role in the banking industry, yes, both internal and external. How important are they in fraud detection and also prevention?
So they play a key role. So in bank, we have what we refer to as lines of defense. So you have first line, second line, and third line of defense. The auditors are in the third line. So if it gets to the third line, for detection and prevention, then you know that the first two lines would have failed miserable. So as a rule of thumb, best practice, what we want to do is to ensure that most fraud is detected and prevented within the first to the second line. When it gets to the third line defense, that the water gets a little bit murky in that. So that most time that's after the fact. So they, because they are auditors, they don't necessarily, they come in after certain things to ensure that we're doing what we're supposed to do and follow the best practices. So most fraud is detected either at the first line or second line.
Throughout this podcast, we've been talking about public education and being knowledgeable, looking ahead, right? Laws and stuff we've talked about also, but what about the public? How important is the ongoing education for preventing fraud?
So, customer education is in fact one of the most important tools that financial institution has, because even if we invest all the profit that we have in strengthening our fraud prevention / cybersecurity apparatus, human plays one of the most important role, and they are usually most times one of the weakest link, because clicking on the link, overly exposing yourself, somebody call you and you provide certain information over the phone to them, despite our best effort, if humans do not adhere to the best practices that financial institutions provide, there will be some losses that is associated with it. So even if we put device binding ID, IP address and stuff like those in place, transaction alerts, all of the suites are monitored. If customers give away their information,
there's nothing much that can be done.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing much. There are some things that we could, because if a transaction, for example, if you normally just conduct transaction at a certain place, there are certain patterns. There are outlier transactions that the bank will, but that will come maybe after one or two transactions would have gone through. But if you get the email and you ignore it, you delete it, you send it to the institutions to report it, then if you get the phone call to ask you for your username, password, token, and you discard it, then there's nothing that the fraudster can do in that regard. But they'll continue to prey. Social engineering is one of the most popular scam, and that is where they play on the human emotion in order to trick them and deceive them into providing certain sensitivity.
And we've heard several calls coming into people to provide. And you know what I don't understand? How can somebody call me to send money to them for them to send me money?
So that I don't mean to laugh. That's one of the most popular way of deceiving. So for example, I provide an example now, which is and I know my Jamaicans are very smart, and I don't know how this one catch them. So there's romance scam going on now, where criminals from around the world, they'll call person, or they send you a WhatsApp, they meet them on Facebook. They meet them on Twitter, they meet them on all of the different
social platforms,
dating sites platforms that is available to them. And these guys will strike up relationships as persons. I'm not saying that nobody find true loves on any of those dating sites, but what I'll advise persons to do, both male and female, to be wary. Take baby steps, be very cautious with it, because what I've seen happen is that, and this is a real story, less than 4 months ago, this happened. A middle-aged lady, she met a gentleman on Facebook. When I called her, she referred to him as her fiance.
Wow.
And they have been engaging in conversation back and forth. She says she call him daily, the video call and stuff like that. What he somehow manipulated her and convinced her into doing was to open bank account, DHL, her debit card to Kenya, for him to quote unquote pay some bills, because he's from another he's from the UK and he's in Kenya in the army and he can't move. She's in Jamaica. She opened 2 bank accounts at 2 different banks, mailed both debit cards to him in Kenya. What he in turn do now, he strike up other relationship with other females. Those females deposit money to the account in Lou to say that they are paying for some packages that he's going to send some expensive bags, some phones and stuff like that. And then he draws the funds off in Kenya. No, there is pretty much, that's a clean type of fraud for him, because if he goes to the ATM and disguises himself and you can't follow him, the account is in the name of his fiancée in Jamaica. The funds that are deposited to the account come from his quote-unquote fiancés that is in Jamaica. So you realize now and a lot of persons, both male and female, falling victims to situations like this. So I'll advise persons to be very cautious, take it slowly. Once you find you're striking up relationship online, and it comes in many forms. That's just one where they send the debit card. There are others where persons, Western Union, the funds. I know of a case of a senior educator in Jamaica. She sent millions, almost $5 million to her quote-unquote fiancé to pay for some duties and other artifacts that he should have been sending her in Jamaica. So this is a serious matter where social engineering, romance type scam affect our population.
Indeed. Looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest fraud risks facing Jamaica, the banking industry, say in the next 5 years, thereabout?
So the only thing constant in fraud is change. So I wish I could have looked in 5 years, but what I can say that will happen, that we'll see a lot more of, is we'll see a greater proliferation of card not present fraud. That will change into, we'll continue to see bin attack. You'll see token provisioning fraud. You'll see, continue to see ABM type fraud, but financial institution will have to ensure that they update the ATM. We'll continue to have online banking fraud in terms of personal online banking type activity, where fraudsters try to deceive persons to take over their online banking account. We'll also, inside a threat, you'll see different variation of it. But I think they concentrated, as we make the shift to a digital economy, we'll definitely see more activities on the card not present / e-commerce space. So that is where, and you'll see a lot of wallet type fraud as well, where digital wallets, because a lot of wallets are being developed. So you'll see those type of activities. You'll see romance scam continue to, because that has been around for a long time. It's just that now in Jamaica it's
becoming more prevalent
for a number of reasons. Since COVID, persons are lonely and they were at home and they get into talking and chatting up online persons, those type of activities. So I think definitely card not present fraud will be the center, but you'll still have the traditional type of activities, because us as financial institution, for example, even though we are on a drive to eliminate checks, those type of activity, check fraud, switcheroo fraud, those things you'll see. And switcheroo is, for example, you'll go to the bank to purchase US dollars, and somebody will be at the door to offer you a better rate. They'll say, oh, I'm here and I see you want to buy. And they'll say, for example, you want a 500 US and the bank selling it for 150. They'll say, no man, I'll sell it for 145. And then you go now, you give them your cash, then they say, oh, I changed my mind, and then switch it back on you. So instead of you get 500 US, you might end up with $100 and pure $1 notes. I've seen, we have had many cases of switcheroo fraud, and it happen not just at banks door, inside banking hall, it happen all over the place. So you have to be mindful. So you'll see definitely, as things change and fraudsters get more sophisticated, you'll have a resurgence of the old school type of activity taking place as well.
All right. I want for you to finally just speak to me about the technology and how it's really advancing these threats. Say, for instance, I'm on the road, right? And I have my card in my purse. There are machines, equipment that people can walk with to get my information.
So I've seen that what I refer to it, fuzzy logics video going around. So let me outline or provide some insight into the technology on the contactless, because that is what that machine is trying to say that they can compromise the information from. So there are some security features embedded on the contactless card. So one, you have the CMV or the floor limit. That transaction cannot be done above that. Two, each transaction is authorized by a unique cryptogram or authorization code. So it's only valid once.
Okay.
Certain information is not stored on the chip, which acts as the antenna for the card. So for example, the full 16 digit, the expiry date, and CVV is not stored on that. Then when the transaction is processed, for example, the contactless card gets into contact with the contactless enabled terminal, there are certain information that does not leave. So even if the information is intercepted,
yes,
what are they going to do with it? And then the transaction is also, because of the tokenization of it, then it might not, the full 16 digit or
be transferred.
Is not transferred to it. So even if the information is, because the technology that reads the card is not unique, but what information you get after, then what are you going to do with it? So even if you go to somebody and closely read the information, there's not much that you can do with the information. Okay, you're not going to get the full 16 digit, you're not going to get the expiry date, you're not going to get the CV, you're not going to get the customer name. Once the financial institution follow all of the protocols, best practices from the Payment Association to ensure that the card is properly programmed, then you have nothing to worry about, because that is the way you'll see a proliferation. As you mentioned the future earlier, the future is contactless.
Yes. In
terms of, you'll see a lot of wearables. So you'll have the card, you'll have the phone that you tap, you'll have your watch, that is smartwatch, your Samsung, your Apple, and those type of watch, your tablets. That is the future. In the future, you'll find that banks' virtual card will be here with us. So you'll find that banks are not issuing much
physical
cards anymore. They'll issue a lot of virtual cards, because everybody, if you go now to the US or to Europe, everybody is contactless. If you go there with a magstripe, you'll die for hunger in Europe, because they don't have any capability again to accept magstripe cards.
Advancement.
Yes.
That is what it is. Indeed. Thank you so much. That is Dane Nicholson. He is the co-chair of the Anti-Fraud Committee at the Jamaica Bankers Association. Thank you for sharing valuable insights, things we need to know as customers of the banking industry. And in case you missed it, here are just a few pointers to look out for, right? Red flags, and also for you to keep abreast of what is happening. Public education cannot be too much. Yes? Inform yourself and be informed so that you may see and know these red flags whenever they come up. Also, best practices. You need to be aware of those. The banking industry is raising awareness continuously, and you need to be informed. Cannot be informed enough. Knowledge is key, and it is indeed power. This has been Follow the Money, the podcast brought to you by the Financial Investigations Division. You may contact the FID by calling 876-928-5141 to 8. You can also email contact@fid.gov.jm, and follow, of course, on social media. That's where everything is these days. Instagram, X, @FID Jamaica. We'll catch up on another episode. I am Robian Williams.